Good afternoon, everyone. Anthony Helm, Head of Digital Media and Library Technologies at Dartmouth College. In 2015, the Jones Media Center at Dartmouth underwent a major renovation. In the process, we went from managing one screen of digital content to managing 9 screens. We had been looking at a number of digital signage solutions, including a solution that was already in use in some locations around campus. That was Vizix, for those of you who are familiar with it. To date, however, the general appearance of what has gradually become mainstream digital signage hasn't really impressed us. We are mostly trying to promote our collections and to showcase the work of students. We are not aiming at information overload, as has become the look of most cable news channels. So we decided to aim for cost effectiveness, knowing that we could always change our minds later. To that end, we looked at hardware and eventually settled on the Raspberry Pi 2 Model B+, which with a case, memory, and power supply is under $64 each. It's gotten even cheaper with, there's now a $5 Raspberry Pi available too. For software, we looked around at a number of pieces of software, and our priorities for looking at software were really that it needed to be relatively easy to use. It had to simply be able to manage bulk video content and image content, be able to show still content and video content, that it was locally hosted. This is a bandwidth concern if you're familiar with living in rural New England. And we wanted multi-screen content variability. So we weren't like trying to send one signal out to a bunch of the same screens. We looked around at a number of solutions, including Rise Vision, Concerto, InfoBeamer, PiWall, and others. But in the end, we decided to go with, instead of a single software solution, we decided to go with 2 very simple Linux packages. FEH, F-E-H, which is an X11 image viewer, and the OpenMax video player that has been specifically developed for the Raspberry Pi's GPU, which is called OMX Player. Both of these are aimed mostly at command line users. I know that sounds intimidating for many people, but command line can sometimes be a lot easier than clicking through 20 screens of a web-based interface. The OMX player can also be invoked, FEH can be invoked from a single command line statement, allows you to loop through a folder full of images. Similarly, the OMX player is also invoked from a command line to play audio and video content. I adapted a shell script to process and loop through a folder of MPEG-4 videos. Recently, I really wanted to combine still image and video images in one, so I actually enhanced that shell script further so that it could take care of both and then play them randomly. Unfortunately, this added some additional complexity of late, and I'm kind of working on improving that. Python could prove to be another way of moving forward on this solution. The general infrastructure is that we put a Raspberry Pi behind all of our screens, and they are connected to the Ethernet. The wireless connectivity is also available. Rather than running SneakerNet to each Raspberry Pi, constantly copying new content to each device, we instead went with SMB file shares, which we mounted on a central server. In our case, this is just a little Mac Mini. And we configured each Pi to connect to the file share on boot up. For good measure, the file shares are also configured so that they are available for web sharing in the event that we want to pursue a different web-based solution at a later date. Folders on the file share denote content type, location, aspect ratio. We do have a couple of screens that we have in portrait orientation. They may also represent geography, so we might have like our east side screen or our west side screen, for example. Each Pi can then be configured easily to draw content from a designated folder. New content can be added by remotely connecting to the central server and dropping the new files into the appropriate folder. We then use VNC to connect to the Raspberry Pi to launch a short shell script, and playback begins. If we need to change or update the content, we simply VNC to the Pi device and restart the shell script. It's very quick and easy. Finally, for content, the majority of the content comes from our students. We hire tech students to support our lab users. They hone their Photoshop skills, Final Cut skills, iMovie, and motion skills to create content that goes on all of our screens. you see some samples of here, the types of things they do. We work with numerous classes as well. So, thank you very much.